All right, you guys. Well, today I have for you this 2023 Dodge Challenger. This is an SXT model. Going around here, I mean, still a very nice looking car, very unique. Really love the styling of this Dodge Challenger. Girl on the back here. I like these sort of like smoke taillight look. I like this back spoiler you get. That cool little fuel door, nice touch there. I'll show you guys under the hood real quick. All right, so this is the 3.6 liter V6. Makes 303 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque. Probably would have preferred the V8 in this car. I know the V8 is just like a game changer for this car, but you know, the V6, it's still pretty peppy. Still a car worthy of filming for sure. But we'll close up the hood here. Even on this SXT trim, you do got these hood vents, which look really good. And let's hop inside this thing. It does have keyless access. You can lock the door by pushing the button, or just put your hand under the door handle. Pretty simple. All right, we'll start it up here. All right, so it is a pretty simplistic interior. You don't get in here and feel like you're in some crazy luxury car. You got a lot of this like kind of grainy plastic in here. I kind of see this type of plastic a lot in Chrysler Dodge products. It doesn't look the nicest, it doesn't feel the nicest, but you do get some nice padding down here. You got this nice leather steering wheel that feels good. Down here you do got this cool shifter, like this T-shaped shifter. It feels pretty intuitive, has a nice solid click between each gear, and you do get a backup camera, which is decent. But I do have a complaint with this backup camera. It doesn't show much of a wide angle view. It just kind of shows what's directly behind you. And this car has pretty atrocious visibility back here, I've noticed. If I'm backing out of a spot, there's this huge pillar right here. You can miss like entire pickup trucks in this blind spot back here. In this back window, it's pretty high up. You can't really see very well out of it. So I would like to have a more wide angle camera. You also don't get rear cross traffic alert in this car, so that's kind of a drawback for me also. But you do get this Uconnect system, which works decently well. It's not bad. It's slightly laggy, but you do get heated seats and a heated steering wheel in this base SXT trim. Most of your climate controls are down here, but in order to change where the air comes out of the vents, you have to go through the screen. So slightly annoying there, but not too bad. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can also adjust your mirror dimmer through the screen. Pretty basic car settings, not anything really crazy in here. Down here you do get a sport mode. You can also shut your screen off and touch it to turn it back on. I do really like these gauges right here, this gauge setup. I like this retro font to everything. And I like this little screen in the middle, very good. Your screen shows your basic stuff like fuel economy. I've been averaging 17.7 with this V6, so not terrible. You also get a 0 to 60 timer, which is pretty interesting. Says the best was 7.1 seconds. You also get your tire pressure readings, your speedometer. That's basically it. Cruise control, no adaptive cruise control in this trim. You also get your volume and tune controls on the back of the steering wheel. You get these kind of like cheap kind of Chrysler switchgear in here. These things are just kind of flimsy a little bit, and you get your wiper stalk on the same stalk. You also get a tiny little net down here for like your wallet or something. You get a center console. It's a little bit tiny, but it works. You get 2 USBs and an aux port in there. We'll show you guys the trunk actually, and I'll open up the door. These doors are huge. The windows go down slightly because they are frameless, but we'll show you guys in the trunk. It's a pretty big trunk, pretty massive. Like I said, this car just stretches so far back, and you really kind of notice that when you're driving. You do get these 19-inch Pirelli all-season tires, but we'll hop inside here. We'll get this car out on a drive. All right, just gonna put it in drive here and we will set off. The steering is pretty heavy, pretty chunky weight to it. But also a little slow to react, I've noticed. It's an intuitive response to it, pretty smooth, but also just a little bit slow, a little bit vague. A little bit floaty on the road. The car feels quite heavy. Like when you go over a bump or something, the whole car kind of bounces around a lot. Like kind of just like a heavy feeling to it. And feels pretty big to drive. It's actually decently manageable though. Like the steering tracks really consistently around corners. It points in a straight line pretty well. For this car's size, it's actually pretty easy to plant it where you want it to be on the road. It's pretty easy to predict where it's gonna go, what you're gonna do. These brakes have a nice bite point to them. Near the top of the pedal, they bite down pretty strong. And they're very smooth, very linear types of brakes. They feel very solid, very strong, which I like. And this V6, you know, it picks up speed pretty quickly. Has nice smooth power, nice smooth, pretty peppy low end power to it. It's pretty quiet. Definitely going to be quieter than like the V8. The 8-speed automatic cycles through its gears really smoothly. Feels pretty intuitive for the most part. There are times where it feels slightly delayed in the shifting. Like when you start to get to those higher gears, it will sort of limit what you can do. It sort of feels a little delayed to downshift at times. But for the most part, when you're just driving, cruising around, very smooth, very intuitive shifting. Smooth, plush ride. Kind of rides like an old Caddy or something, or like an old Buick. Has that really plush ride to it, which you don't often find in cars today. Glides down the road really easily. The throttle is nice and intuitive, nice and predictable. Kind of always know how much power you're gonna get when you step on it. It's actually a surprisingly relaxing car to drive. Very easy, very straightforward. It feels like the only thing that's kind of an issue is just the visibility. The visibility and just the size of this car makes it feel a little difficult to drive, a bit of a pain to drive. But in terms of like the road manners and the response, it's all very like relaxing and nicely done. Very quiet in here too, like nice quiet interior. These side mirrors are a little bit small for my liking. Like when changing lanes, they don't give you quite the best view. And also, like I said, just like the blind spot back there makes it a little hard to change lanes if you're not used to it. Rear-wheel drive, of course. Glides down the road nicely. Try this other little turn right here. And yeah, it's not bad. It has its limit, but the limit is like pretty high. You don't want to go past the limits of this car, but it still lets you have some fun with it when you want to. Nice smooth V6. Even when you're just kind of like keeping a constant speed, it just works smoothly in the background. It definitely has that sort of like boaty, sort of like tank feel that Dodge products are known for. But I am surprised at how composed it is on the road. When people say this is a straight line car, I actually kind of agree with them in like a funny way. Because this car does feel good in a straight line. Like, points nice and straight, feels hunkered down, like glides really smoothly down the pavement. So it does indeed feel good in a straight line. Kind of cornering, you can just kind of like, you know, flick the steering wheel where you want it to go. It just does its thing. Alright, engine is pretty smooth. Not like insane power or anything. It's not gonna like wow you with power, but it is nice, smooth, get up and go, and a nice intuitive automatic. Nice crisp shifting with the automatic. Picks all the right gears. Can also feel the road a bit through the steering. Going over some slightly rougher pavement, you can kind of feel it through the steering wheel, which I always like to see in cars. But we'll try taking this thing on the highway here and see how it does. We'll give it some gas here. Alright. Took a bit of time to pick the right gear. And you know, for a Dodge Challenger, it's not quite the fastest engine in this car. I mean, it's peppy, it's like, you know, pretty good, pretty decent, makes a nice noise. but it's not gonna be like that V8 power that just shoves you back. Try changing lanes here. Transmission isn't always the most intuitive to respond. Notice like on the highway, it sometimes has a little trouble picking the right gear. But it handles high speed well, takes corners pretty good at higher speeds. Maybe slightly wafty a little bit in the steering and the suspension. There are times where it kind of does feel like it wants to find its own lane a little bit, but for the most part it's nice and planted. You got a bit of louder road noise on the highway, as you might expect. But overall, this Dodge Challenger has been a pretty quiet car to drive. Pretty smooth around these corners. Yeah, it feels good to kind of punch it, kind of throw it around a little bit. Kind of puts the muscle in muscle car for me. But I think we'll end the video in here. Pretty sure I talked about everything with this Dodge Challenger. Yeah, it's a nice, smooth, quiet car, surprisingly. Wouldn't really expect that from the way it looks, but really smooth, really quiet. Also kind of fun to chuck around. A little bit heavy, maybe slightly clumsy in the weight and handling side of things, but at the same time nice and grounded, nice and planted. A little bit plain in the interior for me, not the best visibility when you're backing up and things like that. And V6, I kind of would prefer a V8. I think the V8 just makes this car. V6 feels a little underpowered for me. It has a nice smooth takeoff for the most part, but when you get to some higher speeds, it kind of starts to feel dull in this car. But overall, still a very interesting, very unique kind of car. Definitely different from all the normal, more typical cars you see on the road. But I think we will shut it off and we'll hop out. All right, thanks for watching, everyone.